Welcome back to Morning Express. If you're just joining us, so in time to take a look at the stories that are making headlines across our local dailies. And I have none other than Susan Silantoy. You want to remember her from last year. She was running for senator here in Nairobi. Susan, it's so good to see you.
So good to see you too.
Thank you so much for making time.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So first of all, before we jump into this, what have you been up to? Because you were running for senator,
Yes,
Nairobi senator last year. What have you been up to lately?
Well, I have been quite busy. We have been trying to set up a program for the young ladies in the informal settlements, whereby we try and address some of the issues that they have. And the first on the list is definitely unemployment.
Okay.
So we try and train them on how to be employable and also like to try and start businesses, but also address the many other issues that they have, such as issues to do with sexual and reproductive health, issues to do with education levels in the informal settlements, and also just to probe them to meaningfully participate in politics.
I love that. So, on matters politics right now, let's just shift gears a little bit. You want to remember that Raila met Moi, our former president, and now look at this on the Standard. The Standard, we're running with this top story this morning, why Ruto failed to meet Moi in Kabarak. So this is one of our top stories this morning. First of all, I want to first of all hear your thoughts on this, because we saw Raila Odinga meeting Mwai Kibaki. Okay, first of all, Uhuru, definitely the handshake at Harambee Steps. Then we saw him meeting Daniel Arap Moi, and then Mwai Kibaki. And then we have the Deputy President William Ruto here failing to meet Moi. And yet we know, these are key people you want to have on your side before the next election.
Yeah. It's interesting because it just keeps recurring. The story about the royal families, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And it kind of just keeps seeming like Kenya is a club owned by just a specific few people, and Ruto not being able to meet Moi is a bit of a bad sign, meaning that this issue of quote-unquote royal families could actually be true. Okay. So I don't want to speculate and read too much into it, but it's not a good sign for the rest of us, for the average Kenyan. Right.
But here's the thing. Let me flip the coin for you. So the reason why the DP failed to visit Mzee, it's right here. Rare visit. DP makes unannounced landing at Mzee Moi's home without his security, without security detailed, and in a private chopper, but fails to see former president who was with his medical team. All right. So we know Moi also. You want to take a look at this? You want to read for me this part in yellow? Take us through that one.
Unfortunately, this coincided with the time Mzee Moi was undergoing routine physical exercise with his doctors. Mzee Moi agreed to meet the visitors at a convenient time another day in the very near future.
So then, because of Mzee Moi's health, and it probably collided with his doctor's schedule, then we might see maybe Ruto meeting Mzee Moi later on. That would be quite interesting, though.
Yeah, probably. I mean, there's some information that says that the deputy president's visit was not unannounced. There are some people who claim that it was planned, and therefore being stood up is not it might not have been really good for a deputy president. But if it's something to do with his health, probably we need to consider his health more. So I think we just hope that there will be another meeting in the future. But eventually, one wonders, so they are meeting to discuss what?
Exactly.
So does it have anything to do with the rest of us as Kenyans? Will it better our lives in any particular way?
I'm sure it's because ahead of the elections, and we're just from another election yet.
It's a bit. Actually, what I'm wondering is, why are we really discussing issues for 2022 right now? Isn't it a bit too early? Isn't President Kenyatta and Deputy Ruto the ones who are advocating for no more politicking, let's get down to business? And yet, this is what is clouding our conversations. I think it's a big issue,
right,
for me as an individual, because as a Kenyan, I'm seeing the issues that I am having, and the main talk of the town is people meeting people, and 2022. I mean, it's a bit upside.
All right. Yeah. So let's move away from politics. Yeah. Let me bring your attention also to this. Take a look at this. Supreme Court rules on spouse maintenance, and I quote, top judges will today deliver a landmark judgment on the controversial upkeep payment to a spouse after divorce or separation following a bitter case by an estranged couple. Let's head over to page 4 just to get details on this. But this is quite interesting. This is our page 2. Oh my goodness, take a look at that before we come to that. All right, look at that. Look at that. Pictures of the day with that crazy weather. And here is that lady.
Wow.
All right. So let's head over to page 4. There we go. So court to rule if rich divorced spouses deserve upkeep. Let me just give you a snippet of it. Let's look at the headline. What the court is being asked to determine whether it amounts to gender discrimination to have men maintain their wives after a marriage ends, whether men should pay maintenance if a woman is able to raise her own upkeep, whether a man can maintain a woman without getting any benefit from a broken marriage, whether it is fair and just for a woman to earn more than a man through maintenance after divorce. Quite interesting social issues. I can already see you're already teething over there. What are your thoughts on this? I mean, if you found yourself, God forbid, in such a situation, your thoughts on this key 4 points?
I think sometimes when it comes to issues of marriage, in my opinion, it differs from one couple to the other.
Right.
And so there are some situations whereby you will find a lady is very vulnerable, probably married at an early age, and the husband just decides to up and leave.
Right.
So what does the lady do? I think in such situations, probably it's fair for you to kind of to pay upkeep for the lady. And in other cases, a lot of marriages have been, a lot of women are left in a very unfair way, in a very compromising way, and therefore it would be good for the men to take some kind of responsibility for it. I hear what people are saying about, what if the woman is able to maintain herself and all that.
Or what if she even earns more
than the man? It just depends. I think it just depends on the situation, because a lot of women who are able to cater for themselves do not necessarily ask for spousal upkeep or something like that. So if someone requests for it because of a dire situation, then I think such cases should be granted.
So that's different, right? You think so? Because the other thing, here in Kenya, I'm not sure. I don't think that signing prenups is a thing, because back in the Western countries, signing prenups actually sort of protects you from this, and it solves this out. Because if we're both, if I'm married to a person who is of equal wealth as I am, and we both come in with different stakes, if we do divorce, everyone goes back with a different stake. But then you find here in Kenya, a woman takes, a chunk of a man's wealth, and that has been actually a problem within our social circles. I've had men come out and saying, why does that need to happen? And that's why I get what the very first point is, whether it amounts to gender discrimination to have men maintain their wives after marriage ends. What if it's supposed to be the other way around? For example, especially if a woman earns more. Yes.
I think for those of us who are advocating for gender equality, then it is only fair for us to ask for the reverse. It just so happens that most of the time that is not the case, and therefore we would end up having men who are supporting their wives after marriage. But I think the issue of a prenup should actually be introduced, and more people should consider it. I know a lot of people don't like to think about such things because it's like you're thinking about an end to a marriage. But it would be best from a legal perspective to actually have such a document introduced for most of us to just be educated on issues to do with when a marriage ends and things like this.
Right,
but I firmly advocate that marriage has no end. Should have no end. So unless,
Let's take a look at this, okay? What Munro claims. Walker owns a house worth about £250,000. She can get a job, earns rent, and gets pension. She will earn more than him through his support, and she leads an extravagant life while he lives a modest one. She does nothing with her own money. Look at you. Susan, you're there, just closing your eyes. Take a look at this one. What Walker claims now. He is a wealthy here. He earns for his cab businesses. He has about £500,000 stored in his solicitors. He is a housewife she is a housewife who cannot find a job in Kenya. He afforded a cruise party for a friend, and he used to pay about 750 pounds a month when they were together. So this is not just an ordinary couple.
Yeah, this is not an ordinary couple, clearly. So I think in this situation, they probably seem to have their money together, both of them. And if she requires, I think it's unfair for people to say she does nothing with her money. What do you mean she does nothing with her money?
But you see, the thing is, Susan, and I've heard this before, where when you're in a relationship, and I'm sure you've heard of that social saying, a man's money is our money. All right, but my money is my money. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind.
I mean, it's just the way it's different for every single person, and for some of us, and for a lot of people, that this is just how we've grown up knowing. This is his money is our money, and my money is my money.
But we're the same women who are asking for equal opportunities.
I mean, that's. If you ask for equal opportunities, then you better be prepared to also take up some responsibilities that the man does. So I think it just differs from every single person.
Very, very true.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at the next page. And just to jump to page 7. Ooh, all right, page 7. Let's go to page 7. Oh, so this is, you can get details of our main headline, why Ruto failed to meet Moi. Of course, after that, the schedule between his medical team and Deputy President William Ruto did not match in, but the details of that are there. So make sure you grab the Standard this morning. Details of that are on page 6. But I want to bring your attention to page 7. Let me just scroll down. Yes, there we go. Kenya is headed for another Eurobond, all right? Let me just give us a brief by reading probably the first paragraph. Budget estimates contained approved spending and financing plans for the year, especially this is after President Uhuru Kenyatta gave his State of the Nation saying that an upgrade of finances will be given to counties. Now, Kenya plans to borrow another 300,000 billion from the international market this financial year, all right? This means that the country could be headed for a third round of borrowing through insurance of a Eurobond under the planned commercial debt finance deficit worth 300 billion. Susan, we can't even show what we did with the first Eurobond. It went up in white smoke. Where are the projects? And yet here we are.
Borrowing again.
The third one. And mind you, the country has already a debt of about 4 trillion as of January.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I think this is alarming, and I don't know who is advising the government at this point
to continue
borrowing, because as a taxpayer, I'm thinking about my children. Probably they'll be in so much debt. As a country, we're already completely overtaxed, and I'm imagining, like, how are we paying back this debt? And then the unfortunate thing about it is that a lot of this money is actually not appropriated properly, and therefore we end up losing most of it. So we don't even get the benefit of having the full amount. If it's 300 billion, we probably just use a third of it, and then the rest of it is actually misappropriated, which is wrong. And I think the first step would actually be to do proper audits for people to start seeing what is this money doing, where is this money going,
right?
And then after that, we can start considering borrowing. But even when we find out where this money is going, if someone is actually stealing this money, they should be prosecuted and arrested as should be. So we can't let these things go every single time.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
Take a look at this one. It says that it would be the third issue of a Eurobond, also known as sovereign bond, after the 2 previous issues of June 2014 and February 2018, highlighting growing dependence on debt for survival as a nation, where we're going with these debt issues. So Susan has just mentioned, because I'm sure there are different ways we can finance our infrastructure and our projects without having to borrow 300 billion as a third Eurobond, yet we can't even show off with what we did with the first Eurobond. Where are those projects? Because I sort of feel like if we showed that this is what we did with the first Eurobond, then as a government, we do have the right to go and ask for another Eurobond.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. It's going to be interesting. And of course, On page 7, we also went further and highlighted what we did or rather the country did in 2014. In 2014, debt issue was likely raised to of about 275 billion against the target of 200 billion, with the expenditure of the proceeds kicking up a nationwide storm of a possible embezzlement. What Susan, you've just had Susan saying that if someone is stealing money, auditing should be done of this project, and if that is the case, someone should be prosecuted. President Uhuru Kenyatta also mentioned it in his State of a Nation address earlier this week, when he said that people should come out and share any information that they have in regards to graft, all right?
I think it's also just a complacency on the part of the leadership, because when we keep borrowing and borrowing, we as leaders, aren't we supposed to think about the next generation or how we're even going to pay back this debt? So from the leadership point of view, I think they should take charge and be leaders that they tell us they are, and actually think about our needs and our concerns. So I believe the leadership should do more. They should be proactive. Yeah. And try and just, not even try, this is their job. They should do what they need to do. They should make sure that this money that has been borrowed, these resources that have been borrowed are used appropriately. And I really challenge the Senate, because this is their work. I challenge the National Assembly, because this is what they're supposed to be doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want us to cross over to the Daily Nation. There's an interesting topic over there, Susan, that I want to bring your attention to. All right, our screen has seemed to decide it has refused. It has refused. Our screen has refused. But it's okay. The whole story on that in regards to Daily Nation, it's on page 6. Do you have your daily with you?
Yeah.
I have mine right here. It's quite interesting because it's a story rather in regards to visa-free Africa that I believe is quite important, especially if we're supposed to do businesses in Africa with the open free trade. It's on page 6. There, Juma, Kenya betting big on Africa ties. This is in regards, let me just read for you the first paragraph since this has decided to act up. The government is reviewing its diplomatic relations with African countries to enhance regional trade and strengthen the Kenya Passport. Foreign Affairs Cabinet Secretary Monica Juma has said so. And what's going to happen is that there are positive steps that will be taken. It's on your screens right now. The positive steps, free trade area, visa restriction. Kenya students will now get to go to South Africa and has eased the visa restrictions for Kenyan students. Air travel plans are underway to reduce the cost of air travel within the continent, and aviation market as well. Take a look at that. In January, 23 African countries launched a single aviation market. What are your thoughts on that?
I think this is great in terms of it goes a step further, a step closer into having a real Pan-African society. And if you look at the issues that they're raising, issues to do with air travel, it's easier for you to go to a European, like it's easier for you to go to Dubai, for example, than to go to Zanzibar. And Zanzibar is really near. If we just had better air travel rates, even for us to even go to other African countries, it would be much easier for us to integrate, to trade.
Yes.
And as young people, I think we want to do this a lot more. We want to travel a lot more. We want to go outside and study what the African countries are doing differently.
Right.
And if that is facilitated, I think we can have better lessons from each other. The truth is, Africa is like a village. It's like a big village. We have the same issues. The young people in Kenya face the same issues as the young people in Ghana, in Nigeria, which is, it's a very far place. But if we're able to learn lessons from each other and borrow what we need to do, we can actually join together as African people and move our continent forward as a whole. So I think this is a good step. In terms of visa restrictions, I think if we get past that, I think we will be able to do a lot of trade with each other.
I mean, it's a big win for Monica Juma and her office as Foreign Affairs. And the thing that I also want to attach it with, it's just right about a month after most African countries decided to sign the open trade
deal,
with opening its borders. Some African countries have done so, others haven't. Hopefully the ones that haven't done so will do so, and we'll see the sort of economic, should I say, roundup within the continent. But this is big, especially for students within Kenyan students who want to travel. South Africa, it's a big issue getting a visa, even if you're just going for education. So I'll let you have the last say in regards to that. Probably this, because what we're asking our online team or our online audience is, what was the biggest story for you this week? And we'll just finish up with that. Your biggest story that stood up for you this week?
This week, I think my main concern this week has been the floods. And I think, I don't know what we're doing to address this issue. Yesterday, I was coming from Kayole, and between Kangundo Road and Manjani Road, it was a river. Like, you just had to guess where you were going. and that's quite dangerous for people who are traveling. I saw school kids trying to cross over puddles of water, and it was a lot of water, and you kind of get scared for them. You don't know how they're going to get home. And I think we need to do a lot more. I know right now it's raining, but when the rains come down, we really need to improve our infrastructure when it comes to drainage and roads and things like those.
Honestly, Susan has touched on a very key topical issue that we will be discussing in Weekend Review when we come back from this short commercial break. So this is Morning Express. Stay with us, because when we come back, we still have a lot more for you. We're going to take a look at the biggest stories that happened throughout the week. Floods is one of them, especially as schools are reopening. And remember, Hot Topics is going to happen later on. We have so much for you. This is Morning Express. Stay with us.